Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Tired of duking it out with the financial world? Well, without a game plan, you don't stand a chance.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
One of the greatest heavyweight fighters of his time was Iron Mike Tyson. Tyson, who retired from boxing in 2005, recently decided at the ripe old boxing age of 54 to climb back into the ring. Now, for those of you who don't know much about boxing and about the dangers of boxing, take my word for it, boxing at the age of 54 probably is not the best idea. Nevertheless, regardless of whether Iron Mike can pull this off at 54, you gotta love his philosophy on the importance of having a plan and how quickly things can change. Take a look at this quote where Iron Mike says, "Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth." So what is true in boxing is true in money. In other words, before ever climbing into the financial ring with your savings, 401k, or other investments, even with the best products and coaches money can buy, if you don't have a game plan, you will surely get punched in the mouth. And today I'm going to show you what a game plan for your retirement looks like and what it does not. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, game plan setting specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we get started with our show today, let me introduce none other than the producer of our show, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, and two of his brand new financial sidekicks working diligently in our Worry-Free studios here in Louisville, Mr. Derek Hudson and Miss Amelia Johnson. So, over the last several weeks, we've been talking about the 5 P's to any successful project, and today I've saved the best P for last, and that is the concept of having a plan, or what we at Tony Walker Financial like to say, a written game plan. So what is the difference between products and the environment in which you operate those products and a plan? Well, let's take the sport of boxing. What goes into a boxing match anyway? What equipment do you need, and who is there to run the show and make sure that things happen once you jump into the ring? Well, let's take a look. In order to box, you have to have what's called a ring. And then the ring is enclosed with something called ropes. The ring also consists of a mat that helps soften the blow when somebody gets knocked down. Of course, out there, the boxers wear certain types of gloves. The boxers also have a certain type of shoe they wear. And then the only real protection the boxer has is for their teeth or their mouth, and it's called a mouth guard. So hopefully when, not if, you get punched in the mouth, you won't lose all your teeth. Now, besides all this equipment, you also need a referee to make sure things don't get out of hand. And the boxers have to follow the rules, of course. In addition, you got a timekeeper who watches the clock and rings the bell. And of course, finally, you've got a judge who decides who wins the match in case someone is knocked out. And most importantly, that boxer should have a trainer that's in his corner to help them adjust to the beating they're about to take on. Yet, as much as one might plan to avoid getting hurt and winning the boxing match, even if that boxer has a game plan, there's no guarantees that he or she will not get knocked out. That's because in boxing, it's dangerous, and there's a lot of things out of the boxer's and the trainer's control. Anything can happen. Well, guess what, folks? The same holds true for your money. Just because you have some great financial products, maybe you even have a pretty good coach to help you, the thing most of you don't have is a written game plan, one that is easy to understand and has protection as its main goal, one that can easily be followed and meet the changes that are surely going to come your way. So, when I return, I'm going to teach you what a game plan is not and then what one is. So stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back.
Okay, so I have a friend that works at the hospital, and she told me they don't even have a 401k. They have a 403b or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I studied under a gentleman, well-known CPA named Ed Slott. In fact, he endorsed my first book, The WorryFree Retirement, which is pretty cool. But Ed Slott, the first words out of his mouth, I remember I went to a conference, he said 401k, 403b, thrift savings plans or TSPs, 457 plans, IRAs, individual retirement accounts. See how complicated the government makes this stuff? Don't complicate it. They're all basically the same. And if you're putting money into those, more than likely, they're all going to be taxed the same. So I would say to people, whether you have a 401k, 403b, IRA, thrift savings account, we work with all of those, and we can help you get control of that money so you can enjoy more of it.
Does the 403b work the same as the 401k and the other one that you mentioned? Do the rollover just
Yes.
like the 401k work?
Yes, so let's use that example. So your friend at the hospital, they would do the same thing. They would basically contact our office. We would contact the custodian of that money, and we would handle all the rollover paperwork. We would do the phone calls. We would set up the accounts. And again, there's no upfront cost to set any of that up. No taxes, no nothing. Remember, the 401k, IRAs, all those things, they're not taxed until you draw it out. So there's a lot of planning we can do prior to your actual retirement. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Of the 5 P's to be considered before taking on any project, the last P we need to cover as our series is the word plan, or in the case of savers trying to figure out how best to use and enjoy their money without the fear of running out of it in retirement, a written game plan. And while more and more financial pundits and news outlets are starting to talk a lot about financial game plans, in my world I see very few savers that have one. So rather than start off this segment by showing you what a game plan from a trained retirement specialist is, with all these savers under our belt, instead I thought I would talk about what a game plan is not. So let's imagine you're 62 years of age, burned out on work. You would love to know if you can retire. Now, you're not only tired at work, but you're tired of watching your 401k take a beating, so you decide to think about retiring. But what are you going to do? How are you going to figure out if you have enough money to retire? Well, you do what most clueless people do. You turn to the internet and you start Googling stuff. So what I thought we would do, I'm going to take America's favorite financial sidekick, and Aaron, if you're ready in there, I want you to simply Google, Aaron, the following words. Here we go. How much will I need to retire? And look at all of the stuff that is popping up. I mean, reams and reams of articles and calculators. In fact, Aaron, wait a minute, slow down there. Let's go back and click on that particular link right there and take a look at it. All right, so as you can see, this retirement calculator, nothing wrong with calculators, by the way, folks, but what we're getting ready to see, this is what we call, and in the old days, I used to try to do this, it fizzled out all the time, it was called financial planning. Now, what is a financial plan? Well, it's really just a calculator. As I used to study under a guy named Bob Castellone, he used to always say it's just fancy math with people showing off. It doesn't mean anything. Let's take a look at this calculator. Again, a good calculator to get a barometer, but let me show you why this is so faulty and why you're gonna get knocked out using these calculators. So what you do with any calculator, you notice it's got a parameter there. The first parameter is how old are you? The next parameter is, many of them want to solve for your pre-tax income, as if that has anything to do with retirement, which it does not. And then the amount of savings you can save. And then in this case, they'd ask the question, how much will you need to retire at a certain age? So they've chose 67. Now, it's funny, if this person were 35 and at age 62, we're fast forwarding, right? And they're burned out on work and want to retire, and they planned on retiring at 67, so much for that, right? Their advisor or their calculator is going to say, sorry, you're out of luck, Charlie, you're not going to be able to retire. So we have a problem there. So the problem with this particular calculator, like all financial plans, is normally, I think, they make assumptions that are way too high. This particular calculator, and many of them, use 5, 6%. Well, what if you don't make those rate of returns? This particular calculator, like most of them, pick a predetermined age that you think you will retire at. Well, what if you don't retire at those ages? Many of them build in inflation. Many of them build in the amount of money you're going to need. A lot of those things, folks, have nothing to do with a written game plan. Why? Because there's so many variables. Again, it's just like stepping into the ring. You might have a good plan, you think that's a plan, but what happens when taxes come, fees, penalties, changes in tax laws, changes in family circumstances, etc., etc. So this is a real problem. So you might say, well, I don't know if I can rely on the internet. What should I do, Tony? Well, it's kind of funny. Months ago, prior to the pandemic, many of you sat around and patiently waited for these free dinner seminar invitations to pop in the mail. You could generally go to these free dinner seminars, get you a free steak dinner, meet a nice person pitching various wares and various products. But then what happens? Well, I see it all the time. Many of you have purchased products from these dinner seminars without a written game plan. And what happens? You end up coming to see me so you can get a written game plan. It happened just yesterday. I see this all the time, folks. So here's the point. There's a good chance, folks, if you get into the financial ring without a financial game plan, you're going to get punched in the mouth. So when I return, I'm going to show you what a written game plan looks like from Tony Walker Financial, our proprietary software, and why so many savers are worry-free because of these written game plans. I'm Tony Walker. You stay tuned. I'll be right back. Whether you're a long-time viewer of the Worry-Free Retirement or just catching it for the first time, know this: you can watch past episodes and educational clips by visiting our YouTube channel. Just log on to youtube.com and search Tony Walker Financial. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Many of you may not realize that we spend weeks in advance of a show preparing for the show's topic. About 4 weeks ago in our marketing meeting, we had talked about using Mike Tyson to try to help us understand getting into the financial ring. Well, our own Aaron Orander started talking about Mike Tyson's training rituals and knew something about them and how he focused on building up his neck muscles in order to endure the poundage he was going to take in the ring. So Aaron volunteered to work on building up his neck. So after trying these exercises for the last 4 weeks, I thought we would check in on Aaron right now. How's it going, Aaron?
Hey, Tony. Did the neck exercises, took some sparring lessons, probably got a little overconfident, and I stepped into the ring with a guy they call Gallbladder Buster Jones. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm a little banged up. In fact, Derek, I think I need you to take me to the hospital.
All right, let's get back to the show. Our Tony in the trenches. Boy, this is a good one. Didn't send a name in, but I get these kind of questions all the time. Tony, I recently had an advisor show me a plan for getting a ton of tax-free income in retirement using something called indexed life insurance. He says there's no risk and that it should earn me around 8% of my money. Do you think this is a good plan for my money and my retirement? Well, let me answer this question with what not is a game plan. So here's how it goes. This is what we call assumptions. A life insurance policy, particularly this one, based on non-guarantees and hypothetical projections, is not a game plan. By the way, an annuity, as much as I love annuities, an annuity is not a game plan. No matter how much the mailbox money, by the way, still not a game plan. What about the financial calculator we talked about? Is that a game plan? No, that's not a game plan either. You know what? We have some of the best statements in the industry for our clients for what we call our Charles Schwab platform. And these statements are great. They're easy to read, understand, but folks, they're not a game plan. And finally, what about your 401k? It's a great savings plan. We love putting money in the 401k, right? But it's a lousy planning tool. It is not a game plan. So as Iron Mike Tyson says, those types of plans are fine until you get punched in the mouth. What you need is a game plan that anticipates the punches. Think your 401k took a beating during this recent coronavirus? Just wait till you retire. Think about all the taxes, the fees, the risk, dying, and the possibility of going into a nursing home. This just goes on and on again. All of these financial forces of nature are going to pound away at your money, and without a written game plan and a trained retirement specialist with a team of experts to assist you in retirement, you're probably going to get knocked out. Here's the point, folks. Once you step into that financial ring, the gloves come off, and you better have somebody in your corner that has a game plan to meet the changes that'll come your way. And that's why we created the Worry-Free Retirement Income Software. So let's take a look at our software. First of all, folks, a game plan begins with getting things organized. So many of you don't have anything organized. Now, again, you bring me statements and policies and things to look at. That's fine, but you're not organized. We have to get it organized on paper. And this is what our proprietary software does. So the first stage of our process is to get everything organized. Everything in blue would be where an example of this person has money and where we're thinking of moving it to. Now, are we going to rush into this? Well, of course not. Our second appointment, this is what's called our assessment, happens after the first appointment where we get all the information, we meet, and then we lay out your information so you can first of all see what the heck you got and how we're going to work with it. Now the fun part begins here. Let's go to the next slide. We got Derek, our newest financial sidekick over there working hard at the helm, doing a great job, Derek. But basically the software then, if you'll notice, everything in green is carried forward. The items in blue that in this example we're going to leave alone stay in blue. And then this kind of peachish area up here, that's what we call your fixed income. That would be things like wages. Maybe you have a pension, Social Security, the spouse has a pension. Maybe they have some rental income from real estate. Well, the question is, how is all this going to play out in retirement? Which assets do you draw which money from, and how much do you take out? What are the taxes going to be? What are the fees? What are the ramifications if you go in a nursing home? What happens if one spouse dies? You know, in this example here with all these pension and Social Security numbers, I met somebody the other day, they had no clue that when one of the spouses was going to pass away, that the spouse that would be still alive loses a bunch of Social Security and pensions. They didn't have any clue. Then they dropped all their life insurance. So the point was, the bearer of bad news was this model, we had to show them how we were going to try to find the money to make up for the lost income that was going to happen when, not if, when one of the spouses passed away. So as you can see, the model, we're not throwing money out from just blindly from all of these what we call file drawers. We're strategically pulling out money depending on what's going on in somebody's life. So we're stepping in the ring with you here, folks, and we don't know what's going to happen when you get in the ring. The software is our guide. So let's go to the next page, Derek. So now, these are the ages of the two folks. Notice this person is starting to approach what we call the second half of life. This gets really important because now in the second half of life, we're trying to spend more money before we get too old to spend it. See, most people wait way too long to enjoy their money. They wait to a period of time when they can't even enjoy it, and they got all this money stockpiled, and then they either die, the tax tumor gets left to the family, or they go in a nursing home and somebody else takes it away. This is no way to live and enjoy your money, folks. So what we're all about is encouraging you to deploy that money, get it out of these file drawers at the least amount of cost and taxes, and use and enjoy it. I hope this makes sense. But if you don't have something like this in writing and have an advisor who's trained in retirement planning along with service experts that are there to work with you, you don't have a plan at all. Now, what's interesting about this, when somebody goes through our process, even if they're not a client, there's no cost to get this at all. We'll be happy to lay this out for you. But if you do become a client, and then let's say 3 years from now something happens. Maybe you need an extra $50,000 we hadn't planned on. Maybe I've had people where they've had to take care of their grandkids and spending more money on private schooling for their grandkids that they never planned on. See, plans don't always come to fruition because plans change. Well, all they do is call our offices at Tony Walker Financial. One of our friendly staff calls up the game plan, reviews it, gets a fiduciary involved, problem solved. See how easy this is? So this looks like something you're missing. Why don't you contact us at TonyWalkerFinancial.com? Just basically click on that Let's Get Started button. We can talk by phone or meet in person. And of course, at no cost or obligation, we'll be happy to put your information into our proprietary worry-free income software. Do it now, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call 877-499-WALK. Well, what does the Bible have to say about planning and potentially taking a knockout punch if you don't plan properly? It's got a lot to say and some really good news coming your way. You stay tuned. Let me get me a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Our employee spotlight today shines brightly on Miss Mandy Houchins. Good morning to you, Mandy.
Good morning, Tony.
Thank you for making the drive up to Louisville with Connie Fortney. Did you have a good drive up?
We did, yes. No
Good.
traffic, so it was nice.
And you've been with me a whole, 2.5, 3 months, Tony Walker?
5.
Has it been 5 months?
5 months.
I was trying to get you roped into this interview much sooner, so you got by with 5 months without being interviewed for the spotlight.
I held out for a little while.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. And just briefly tell us a little bit about your background, Mandy, prior to joining Tony Walker Financial.
Sure, I had done banking for about 22 years, all aspects. Started as a teller, was a processor, a loan assistant, ended up as a loan officer, mortgage lending, and did that for a while, and then just decided I needed a change. So still financial world, but a different aspect this time.
Yeah, what is the one thing that's kind of, I wouldn't want to say surprised you about working for a retirement planning specialist, but what have you seen that's kind of different from the banking or the rest of the financial world that you've learned?
I think you're just helping people at a different point in their life. You know, most people that have saved all of their working years when they're, doing lending and things like that, and most people that we're helping now are past that. They're ready for the retirement and enjoying the money that they've saved.
And I liked how you put it too. I asked you once in the office, I said, what do you see as one of the advantages of what we do? And how did you put that, stretching the money, making it work? What did you say there?
Yeah, you see how far you can stretch the money that they've saved.
That's really good. And then one area, Mandy, and we really appreciate this that you're helping with, and it kind of surprised me that you said you actually enjoy doing this, but at Tony Walker Financial, I always say that we take you from cradle to grave, and unfortunately, with our clientele being many of them retired, we do lose some of our clients to death.
Sure.
And we are unusual because we encourage the family to let us help with those death claim forms, and you've kind of jumped right in there and share with that process that unfortunately we do have a lot of clients in that age range. So tell people what your role is in that process.
Basically, you contact the companies that they have accounts with, annuities or, Charles Schwab, and you help them with those death claim forms. The filling out of that paperwork can be very overwhelming, especially in a tough time like that. So I basically prep the paperwork and find out what their options are for going forward with those accounts.
And I know they really appreciate that. And finally, Lisa Allerkamp, who does all of our income plans, you've also jumped in helping out with that. I mean, you're doing so many wonderful things. Tell people about your role in helping with the income planning and the rewards you see in that in terms of our clients knowing exactly what they got and how they're going to be able to use and enjoy it.
Sure, you basically look at what people have saved, over their lives, and you help them figure out where to put it and how to stretch it out, like I like to say, and make it last for them, and how they can get that mailbox money, as you talk about, over the retirement years of their life. And I have enjoyed figuring out how to do that best for people. Not everybody wants the same thing, so each one is different.
Mm-hmm. Good observation. Well, Mandy, first of all, it's been 5 months, but it's been a great 5 months. We appreciate all that you do for Tony Walker Financial, and hopefully you're with us many years in the future. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome. Whether you're a longtime viewer of the Worry-Free Retirement or just catching it for the first time, know this: you can watch past episodes and educational clips by visiting our YouTube channel. Just log on to youtube.com and search Tony Walker Financial. For someone who once said everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, a 54-year-old retired boxer climbing back into the ring to get punched in the mouth again doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yet, you know what? After working in the financial trenches and the financial rings for over 36 years and meeting in person with thousands of people, one way I personally try to explain things that don't seem to make a heck of a lot of sense is to simply follow the money. So, why would Iron Mike endanger himself by climbing into the ring again? How about the sound of $20 million? Well, I guess you could take a lot of punches for that amount of money. And maybe that's what explains why humans try to deal with problems and issues that in many cases just don't make any sense. Take the most recent flu virus, infamously referred to as COVID-19. While the world has had to deal with the deadly flu virus for centuries, for some unexplainable reasons, we've shut down the economy and our government to try to deal with this one. And since I know nothing about the science behind COVID-19, I do the only thing that I know a sweater vest guy can do when some things don't make any sense, and that's follow the money. Take a look at the stock prices of some of the companies currently in the hunt to successfully create a vaccine. Oh, by the way, one company in the hunt for a big payday is not actually a company at all, but a country. It's the country of China and apparently a lab in Wuhan. Talking about a left hook out of nowhere. So what does the Bible have to say about us humans and the plans we try to make in dealing with an uncertain future that we must endure, our plans, as well-intentioned and thought out as they might be, one day may not save us. It's what Iron Mike was trying to say. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. What does the Bible have to say about this whole planning thing? Well, let's take a look at Proverbs 16:9, just the first part of that verse, and all it says is this: the mind of a man plans his steps. Now let's look at this for a second. God has gifted you and I with a mind. We can think for ourselves, and yes, we can solve problems and make plans for the future, and of course our money. Yet, even with our most wonderful proprietary software at Tony Walker Financial, even though I've been in this business 36 years, even though I've personally met with over 15,000 savers, have a full-time staff of fiduciaries, service experts, you know what? Your retirement may or may not turn out exactly the way we planned. As we said earlier, there's a lot of things out there pounding away at your money, and even the best plans may not always protect you. We say, so what's the answer, Tony? Well, let's keep reading as we go back to Proverbs 16:9 and read the rest of that verse, which says, but the Lord directs his steps. Folks, you and I are given the task to plan. It's ingrained in us, but the only way we will have peace of mind in our efforts to plan is to trust God that he'll direct the steps. Well, how do you know that he will direct them? Because he said he would. This world and the things in it are unpredictable, and it's not our job to try to predict the future. Just look at the fall of the recent government fallout from the shutdown. Nobody saw any of this coming. It was not in the plan. But Tony, I'm so worried about tomorrow and what my money will look like and whether I'll even have enough money. What am I supposed to do today? Well, let's take a look at what Jesus says in 6:34 of Matthew. He says, do not be anxious for tomorrow will care for itself. Each day, listen, has enough trouble of its own. Well, how about you? Are you worried about tomorrow? Are you tired of feeling like you're duking it out with the rest of the financial world with nobody in your corner? Well, maybe we need to talk. Now, we can't guarantee that change won't come your way, but what we can guarantee there is we are going to be here to help you when those changes come. You have to decide if you're willing to share your finances with us. You have to make the decision if your financial concerns are worthy of sitting down with somebody who can help. That's all we want to do, is try to help savers worry less about money, and we're really, really good at it. To find out more about our services or meet by phone or in person, all you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. While there, just click on the Let's Get Started button, and you will be contacted by our offices to talk by phone or meet in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it now, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call the toll-free number on your screen. We hope you've enjoyed today's program. We look forward to seeing you next week on the Worry-Free Retirement, but you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.